Hey everyone, and welcome back. I think we all saw this one coming, but maybe not quite like this.
Yeah, no kidding.
So today, let's do a deep dive into how media, and specifically podcasts, well, kind of flip the script during the 2024 election.
Really shook things up. It's wild how traditional media outlets are kind of losing their grip. Not just viewership, but credibility too.
Right, exactly.
It's like podcasts are filling this void, pulling in massive audiences. I mean, huge.
Yeah, and it's leading to real change, like
Ugh.
politically.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We're talking about unfiltered conversations, grassroots movements like really taking off. And then you've got politicians scrambling, trying to figure out how to connect with voters in this like totally new world.
Right.
It's fascinating.
So I guess the big question is, where do we even begin to unpack all of this?
Well, let's start with the rise of what some are calling anti-woke podcasts. These
Yeah.
shows, they played a pivotal role in the 2024 election.
I think we all know which shows you're talking about.
Probably, yeah. Like the Joe Rogan Experience, Theo Vaughn's this past weekend, Lex Fridman podcast, even the comment section. These have exploded in popularity,
You really have.
especially among a younger crowd, mostly guys.
Yeah.
You're kind of disillusioned with mainstream media and what they perceive as this like woke culture.
Yeah. It's like these shows are speaking directly to a certain type of person,
Yeah.
someone who maybe feels like their voice isn't being heard elsewhere,
Yeah,
like ignored by those traditional media outlets even.
absolutely. Feeling silenced even.
Yeah, yeah.
And the audience numbers are, I mean, crazy big.
Oh, yeah.
In 2024, Joe Rogan, just on YouTube alone, was pulling in over 50 million views per episode.
Wow, that's more than, most cable news networks put together.
Exactly. It's a major shift. How people are getting their information, how they're engaging with politics, it's all changed.
So, Trump obviously saw all this coming. He, really embraced those podcasts during his 2024 campaign.
He did.
You remember all his appearances. Rogan, Theo Vaughn, even Lex Fridman.
He went all in,
Yeah.
and it was very smart.
Oh, absolutely strategic.
Yeah. I mean, Trump understood that those platforms, they're a direct line to this massive audience.
Yeah.
And they were already receptive to his message, that anti-establishment vibe.
Right.
He basically sidestepped traditional media, all those filters, spoke straight to millions of potential voters who, let's face it, a lot of them probably weren't watching cable news or reading newspapers anyway.
So true. Okay, so Trump definitely played this new media game like a pro, but what about the other candidates? Did they, catch on at all?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
For example, Kamala Harris, she got invitations from both Joe Rogan and Theo Vaughn.
Really?
Yeah, but her campaign chose not to go on those shows.
That's a bold move.
It was. Do you think it was strategic? Or like a total miss?
That's hard to say, right?
Hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
But definitely a missed opportunity. I mean, potentially millions of voters who tuned into those podcasts, she could have reached them.
Right.
And her campaign, they kind of stuck to those traditional outlets, the ones that are, well, they're not really growing anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought going on those podcasts was too risky, or they were afraid of alienating certain, segments of their base.
Right. They were probably worried about how it would look.
Yeah. But whatever the reasoning, I think it's pretty clear that those anti-woke podcasts, they had a huge hand in shaping how the 2024 election played out.
Right, for sure. Almost like there's this whole other world of media happening.
Exactly.
And some people, well, they're just completely missing it.
It really is. It makes you think about the Nelk boys, actually.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of missing the boat, how about those guys? They went from, YouTube pranks and partying to actually impacting the election.
It's crazy, right? The Nelk boys, they're a perfect example of this whole phenomenon. Super popular with young people.
Huge following.
Mostly guys, and they came out full force endorsing Trump. In 2024, they campaigned for him, hard.
They did, all through their podcast, Full Send.
Exactly. And then, get this, they even launched a PACA, Send the Vote, and raised a mind-blowing $20 million for Trump.
Wait, 20 million? From, a bunch of YouTubers.
I know, right? It just shows you the power these guys have,
Yeah.
that authenticity,
Yeah.
They connect with their audience in a way that those traditional media outlets, they just can't.
That's true.
And, Dana White, the UFC president,
Yeah.
he specifically thanked those podcasters, Joe Rogan included.
Wow.
He credited them with helping Trump win.
It really highlights how these, I guess you could call them anti-woke podcasts, they weren't just talking about the election. They were actively influencing it.
Oh, yeah, big time.
So we've got Trump, totally owning this new media landscape.
Yeah.
Harris maybe missing the mark a little, and then the Nelk boys, just out there raising millions for Trump. I mean, it's clear that the right really dominated the podcasting world in 2024. Why do you think that is? Like, was it just, I don't know, a coincidence, or is there something more to it?
Oh, it's definitely more than just chance. The Right. They've been killing it in audio media for a long time. I mean, think back to talk radio. Guys like Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, yeah, he was a pioneer.
Totally. Limbaugh, he really understood how to connect with that audience, speak their language, validate those frustrations they were feeling. He built this whole media empire on challenging the mainstream narrative, and it worked. Millions of people were tuning in.
He created a space where people felt like they could finally be heard,
Exactly.
especially those who felt, ignored or even dismissed by the mainstream media.
For sure. And that model, that direct, unfiltered way of talking to your audience, it's carried right over into the podcasting world. We
Yeah.
see it now with guys like Ben Shapiro, his Daily Wire network. It's a powerhouse now.
Yeah, it's huge.
And then you've got this whole new wave of what some people are calling barstool conservatives,
Yeah.
mixing humor and pop culture commentary with their right-leaning politics. It's really resonating with a younger demographic.
It's smart.
Yeah.
So it's not just the message,
Yep.
right? It's how you deliver it, the tone, the style.
You got it. It's about building a community, creating the shared identity. And they've just been better at doing that in the audio space.
I mean, they've had more practice, right?
Yeah.
Going all the way back to talk radio and now with podcasts, it makes you wonder why the left hasn't been able to replicate that success.
That's a good question.
I mean, they tried with Air America.
Right. Yeah.
It totally flopped.
It did. It's a shame.
What do you think went wrong there?
Well, I think Air America faced a bunch of challenges. One of them, it's just historical context,
Oh, interesting.
Talk radio, that whole emphasis on individual liberty, smaller government, skepticism of authority, it just naturally aligned with conservative thinking. The left, with their focus on social justice, collective action, more government intervention, maybe they had a harder time making that fit into the talk radio format.
Right. Kind of like
Yeah.
trying to play a different game, but with the same rules.
Exactly. And then there's the audience. Those conservative talk radio listeners, they were and still are a very loyal bunch.
Yeah. They tuned in religiously.
They formed these strong bonds with the hosts. Air America, they had some big names, but they couldn't quite create that same level of community.
Yeah, it really seems like the right just had a head start. They understood the medium, the audience, everything. But the media world, it's always changing.
That's for sure.
Do you think the left can, I don't know, catch up? Can they make compelling audio content that people actually want to listen to?
It's the big question, isn't it? It's not about copying what the right has done.
Right.
It's about finding their own voice, their own style, their own way of connecting with an audience that's, they're looking for something new, something fresh.
Yeah, they want something authentic, something that feels real, speaks to their values.
Exactly.
And it's not just about politics, it's about culture, entertainment, telling stories, content that's engaging, informative, makes you think. So where does this leave us in terms of political engagement? Are podcasts going to be the main stage for winning hearts and minds?
I think it's definitely a major frontier. Podcasts, they offer this level of intimacy, this directness that you don't really get with other forms of media.
Right. It's like you're part of the conversation, not just passively taking in information.
That's it. And as we've seen, they can have a real impact.
Yeah.
Elections, policy, how we see the world.
So moving forward, it seems like it's really crucial for politicians and for citizens to, to understand the power of podcasts.
Yeah, for sure. It's not niche anymore. It's shaping how we consume information, how we talk about politics. Ultimately, it's shaping our future.
It's like we're trying to navigate this massive information jungle.
It is, and it's easy to get lost.
Yeah, to get caught up in all the noise and just hear the loudest voices, those extreme opinions.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
So how do we stay grounded? Where do we find those reliable sources?
It's tough. It's a process. Always learning, questioning, refining how we understand things. We have to be so aware of our own biases.
The filters we see the world through, right?
Right, exactly. And be open to challenging those biases.
Yeah.
Hearing other perspectives, even if they make us a little uncomfortable.
So it's not about being right. It's about understanding that these issues are complex, being open to having your mind changed.
You got it. And remembering that the media, it never sits still. What was true yesterday might not be true today.
Right. Things change. What works for one politician might not work for another?
Exactly. It's all about adapting, being flexible, always open to learning.
So you're saying there's not just one right way to navigate all this new media.
Nope, no magic formula. But if we stay curious, stay engaged, and, keep an open mind,
Yeah,
we can be better citizens, more informed, think more critically, and really participate in shaping the future.
I love that. So I guess as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember?
Embrace the change. The media is evolving, and that's not always bad.
Yeah.
Challenges, for sure, but also opportunity. New voices, new perspectives.
Right, a more diverse conversation.
Exactly.
It really does feel like we're all part of this like giant experiment,
Yeah,
figuring out how we communicate, how we connect in this digital age.
that's a great way to put it.
And who knows what's coming next. But if we stay curious, informed, and engaged, I think we can all be part of shaping that future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
And remember, this isn't the end of the conversation. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep diving deeper.
Yeah, well said. And on that note, we'll leave you all to think about everything we've discussed. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious and keep those ears open.